So, I've been a huge fan of Zack Snyder's work for, nearly 20 years, and for at least half of that time, I've been dealing with a lot of people I don't know personally, online, and even here on YouTube, that have been telling me what a toxic monster I am for that. So let's set the record straight. I deeply enjoy Zack Snyder's work as a filmmaker, but I don't worship the ground he walks on, because at the end of the day, he's a human being, just like I am. This means I don't belong to a cult, because strictly speaking, a cult is defined as a system of religious veneration and devotion toward a particular figure or object. So if you're looking to call out those people, I suggest you go find the ones that literally use the phrase Lord and Savior Kevin Feige, because that's creepy. I'm also still very much a DC Comics fan, and just because I think Man of Steel, Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, and Zack Snyder's Justice League are cinematic masterpieces doesn't mean that I don't understand or have never read DC Comics. It just means that you don't like that I like them, which is weird and creepy on your part, because what I like or don't like shouldn't affect you like that. At all. I defend Zack Snyder's work quite a bit on social media, but I don't do disgusting personal attacks, and the ones that do don't speak for me or any of the other mutuals that I talk to. So if you have a problem with the toxic fringe of the fan base, I suggest you direct your anger and your bitterness at them, not me. It is not my responsibility to police everyone on Twitter, and if toxic bloggers, critics, video essayists, and YouTubers get to say whatever the hell they want about how much of a Nazi they think Zack Snyder is, they really don't have any room to complain when the other side of their own toxic extremism comes knocking at their door. And in the end, I just end up muting both of you jackasses and moving on with my life. I actually have tweeted #release the Snyder Cut and #restore the Snyderverse, because I understand the actual reason why both of those hashtags exist. And it's not to bash Warner Brothers, and it's not to drag other DC filmmakers, and it's not to annoy Snyder haters either. It's to demonstrate an actual viable audience for Zack Snyder's Justice League sequels, because I actually think they'd be pretty awesome to see. But I'm also a realist, which means that whether or not those sequels ever actually happen, I understand exactly how difficult it would be to try to pull them off now. Not because Warner Brothers decided they weren't viable and moved on from them, but because Zack Snyder's Justice League was already released 4 years late, and trying to get everybody back for sequels to that is a logistical nightmare at this point. Not impossible, just incredibly complicated. So I'm not stressing over it, especially since he's already over at Netflix building his own empire of original content between Rebel Moon and the Armyverse stuff and whatever other projects he's got on his plate. I'm just really glad that he gave us a subjectively fantastic trilogy featuring some of my favorite DC characters of all time, and nothing anyone says or does will ever change that. You might have also noticed that I'm not actually an angry white male with a neckbeard and a pathological hatred of social justice warriors. So I really don't appreciate it when verified accounts on Twitter that I've never heard of automatically and loudly assume that I must be some Randian bigoted piece of crap just because I like Zack Snyder's films. And that goes double for Jamal Igle and all of the comic creator gatekeepers that irresponsibly call me a terrorist, just because I happen to like comic book movies that they can't stop whining about years after their release. A lot of Zack Snyder fans look like me, and we are far more diverse than you give us credit for. Finally, I don't care whether you like Zack Snyder's movies or not. If you want to waste all of your time whining about how his Superman doesn't smile enough, and he didn't save that parking garage, and he snapped Zod's neck to save that human family from being vaporized, that is your own pathetic, miserable business. I just want you to leave me alone and stop telling me that I'm wrong when I decide to praise his Superman and how deeply rooted in the comics his take on the DC Universe actually is. You don't have to agree with me, and you don't have to like my opinion. But is it really that difficult to not be a gatekeeping, goalpost-moving dick whenever any of us decides to post how much we enjoy Zack Snyder's films? I mean, are we really at the point where I have to question how many of you anti-Snyder people really hate Zack Snyder, or how many of you just hate his fan base because you're entirely too lazy to separate the toxic ones from the rational ones like me? I mean, seriously, I have to separate toxic fringes from their fan bases all the time. You think that because there's a toxic minority of Star Wars fans that hate Kathleen Kennedy, have been very bigoted towards the POC members of the Star Wars cast, and hate Disney, that I just have to assume the entirety of their fan base is exactly like them? Or that because there's a bigoted, very abusive corner of the Star Trek fan base, I should just assume that the entire rest of the fandom is like them? No, I'm not lazy enough to paint an entire fan base with a broad brush like that. And neither should you be when it comes to Snyder fans, no matter what any angry blogger, critic, or fanboy tells you about me or someone like me. Because whether you admit it or not, there are far more rational Zack Snyder fans out there than there are toxic ones. And we're the reason that Zack Snyder's Justice League got released, because we demonstrated a viable audience for the material on HBO Max. And just because you had a bad experience with the toxic fringe on social media doesn't mean that you get to be a jerk to the rest of us out of lazy spite. Believe me, I have most of those toxics muted, and damn near all of them have me blocked. Because being a rational Zack Snyder fan is not about being miserable and toxic. It's about enjoying the director's work and having a genuine desire to see more of it. Because it's subjectively awesome.